Welcome back to the Law of Happy podcast. I'm your host, Lauren Tatner. I'm an attorney and I teach laughter as an exercise. When we laugh, we feel good and we raise our energy. This allows more good, fun things to flow into our experience. This is the Law of Happy. So let's laugh, have fun, and practice the Law of Happy together. I'm so excited for you to meet today's special guest, Brian Curry, magician and mentalist. For over 2 decades, Brian has entertained at corporate events and on cruises to every continent. He earned first place at the World Magic Summit competition, was Washington City Paper's 2022 Performing Artist of the Year, and was dubbed DC's most honest con man. If you're in the Washington, D.C. area, you can catch Brian in his amazing and unique magic show called The Good Liar. I met Brian a couple of years ago in a virtual eccentric clown workshop that we both took with Avner Eisenberg, also known as Avner the Eccentric. I was excited to reconnect with Brian on my podcast now that we're both officially eccentrics. Join us in today's episode where we choose to laugh on purpose as an exercise to raise our energy and hear how Brian got into the world of magic as a shy kid. I'm so inspired by Brian's journey because he follows what feels good and right for him, and he's doing what he loves. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Brian. Brian, I am so excited that you're here. Welcome to the Law of Happy podcast, and thank you so much for being our special guest today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, me too. I want to actually maybe start with something that's a little unconventional, and I'll explain.
Okay.
Because my focus with my podcast is different fun tools or techniques to feel good and to raise the energy and all about having fun. I want to know if we can start with a simple guided laughter exercise. Just
all right.
Cool. So listen, because here's the thing. There's so many benefits to laughter, and the body can't tell the difference, doesn't know the difference whether we're laughing spontaneously because of humor, comedy, because something makes us laugh like that, or whether we're simulating the laughter as a form of exercise. And actually, when we practice or work our laughter muscle and practice laughing just for the sake of it or for the benefits of it, it actually helps grow our sense of humor and our ability to laugh when we are at a show or we are somewhere where we just want to let go and have fun. So let's just do this simple exercise so we can feel that good laughter energy. I'm excited. We'll do an introduction laughter exercise. So normally I start, but I'm wondering if you can start, and I'll tell you why after. Okay, this is what you're going to do. You're going to say your name. So you're going to introduce yourself, just say your name. And then if you can tell us somebody who's maybe in the comedy world who's an inspiration to you.
Okay.
But then the main purpose of the exercise is then after that you laugh. So you say your name.
Okay.
Tell us an inspiration of yours in the comedy or performing arts world, and then just start laughing. Just as an exercise, not because something's funny, but just as an exercise. Oh, and before you laugh, it's helpful to take a breath in. So before you start simulating the laughter, just take a breath in, and then just let the laughter flow as you let the air out. It helps so that we don't start coughing. And then and when you laugh, I'm going to join you and laugh with you.
Okay.
And our listeners will join in and laugh with us too. Okay.
All right, let's do it.
Okay.
My name is Brian Curry, and I think one of the funniest humans on the planet is a magician named Bob Sheets. He's hilarious.
Oh, Brian, thank you for that. I'm going to go next. But I really appreciate you going first. I wanted you to go first because I wanted you to introduce yourself. And also, I didn't want to risk saying a person who you might have mentioned.
Oh, okay.
Okay. But anyway, it was just me overthinking.
That's all right.
Which I'm trying to stop doing. Okay. So thank you, Brian, for leading us off with that exercise. I'm going to go next. Hi, my name is Lauren Tatner, and one of my comedy inspirations is Steve Martin.
He's fabulous.
Oh my gosh. I find he incorporates clown and comedy.
Mhm.
And a lot of other things. Like he plays the, is it the banjo?
He plays the banjo. He's a magician. He's a playwright. He's an
Oh my
author.
God. Oh
He's
my gosh.
incredible.
Mm.
It's funny you mention him. I invite him to every show that I perform. I have a little plunger with his face on it, and it says reserved for Steve Martin. And if you go on to Instagram or Facebook and type in hashtag tell Steve,
Yeah.
you'll see a whole plethora of invitations to Steve Martin to come to my show. It's people who are sad that he didn't make it holding his plunger.
Oh my gosh.
And I will do it until he comes.
Oh, and I want to help with this mission. I would love to hear about your journey, how you got involved in the creative world and doing
Mhm.
the shows that you're doing, because I think it's so much fun, everything that you incorporate and everything
Sure.
you bring to your audiences.
So I am a magician or a mentalist, depending on what gig you see me at. And my journey, I started when I was about 13. I was a really shy kid. I grew up overseas in countries where they didn't speak English. And when I came back to America, I learned a trick once, and all of a sudden, all the kids in class were talking to me. And I was like, that's it. I ran home. I was like, Mom, I got to learn another trick. I got my first gig like 6 months, or it was less than that. And then I've been doing shows ever since. I paid my way through college, doing mostly magic shows or mostly close-up magic. And I went to college to study a few things, but I ended up at theater. And I thought theater would help me because I knew that my biggest weakness was being on stage. Close-up magic, I was always pretty good at. Being on stage was really hard for me. So I
Mm.
took it because I knew it would be hard and I knew I needed it. And then that was it. I figured I'd do it until I failed and until the pandemic. It was a really good fun. And I'm back at it now.
Oh, wow. Thank you for sharing that part of your journey. And I can relate. In my case, I was a shy kid as well. And that's how I got into acting and theater. So the shows that you're doing now.
So I have two main markets. I do educational school shows. I do shows at elementaries that are based on math, science, or reading. I have 5 different programs. And before the pandemic, I was going to a little over 100 schools a year
Wow.
doing shows like that. And then the other half of my business is either corporate magic or mentalism is fake mind reading. And I have a show called The Good Liar in DC where I pretend to read the audience's mind. And then throughout the show, I'm exposing a bunch of lies that I've told throughout the show. It's a really fun. The premise of the show came from, is it possible to tell people you're going to lie to them and still get them to believe you? And so that's what I do at the opening. I tell them I'm going to lie to them. I try to get them to believe me throughout the show. And at the end, I try to pull the rug out. So it's a neat premise.
It is. I've never heard of this premise before. It's so creative and different. I love it.
It's not good for corporate, but it's good for the nice thing about four-walling your own show. You get to do whatever you want. It's
Uh,
fun.
it sounds like fun. I would love to see a show with Steve Martin or on another night. Actually, when you were telling a bit about your journey from when you were a child, it reminded me of Steve's journey, Steve Martin's
Hmm.
journey. For your inspirations, like when you were a kid and getting into this, did you have favorite magicians or who were your inspirations?
I had inspirations. I also had teachers. So one of the first magic teachers I had was a guy named Peter that no one's ever heard of, but he's Peter Galinskas. He was a former card cheater. He was a rounder in New York and used to steal people's money and
Oh,
work with some great magicians. And I guess at some point he decided he didn't want to do that. So he started teaching magic lessons just with cards. So my mother would drive me an hour and a half to Denny and Lee Magic Studio in Baltimore. And I would sit with him for hours. And he would sit there with a pen and I would do a move and he'd go, whack, I saw your pinky move. Dude, it was like a piano teacher. Whack, do it again. I saw that. It was riveting. Now, but for him, it's a matter of life and death, right? You do a move badly, you get caught, you get thrown in jail or beaten up or worse.
so one second,
So
he was really doing things. He was really
yeah.
taking people's money.
Oh yeah. He was from what I'm told, he didn't go
Mm.
much into that because I was a kid.
Oh, yeah.
But from what, yeah, he worked with a very famous magician, Frank Thompson, and he apparently was a technician. So he was the guy who didn't do a ton of talking, but he did all the moves and made sure his partner won and that kind of stuff.
So I just want to make sure this is so interesting. So your mom would drive you an hour and a half to work with them?
with a horrible human. Yeah, no, he's not a horrible human. He was just a
Yeah.
reformed
Okay,
human.
okay.
My mother was the best parents. I
It
cannot say
sounds
anything
like it.
but like most magicians have this wonderful story about nobody believed. No, my parents they supported me, they believed in me, all that stuff. But my mom never let me in the room alone with any of these guys. Like she
Mhm.
always was. And now as a parent, I certainly respect that. She went in with both eyes open. She was careful to make sure that she didn't let me go into a place where I could get hurt or I would be influenced by. Certainly didn't want him teaching me how to con people out of their money. But she also wanted me to follow what I was the fourth boy. My oldest brother tells me pretty much every time he can that my parents never would have let him be a magician. It wouldn't have happened. But by the fourth boy, we warned him down and don't let me do
Right.
anything. So
Wow. No, that's amazing that you, and incredible that you had such supportive parents.
I often think of how much more successful I'd be if they didn't believe in me. If they had
Oh.
given me a little less love. But that was, it was a wonderful, and actually the very first magician I ever met, and you're not a magician, but this is so incredibly rare. I didn't know it at the time. The first guy that I really met was named Al Curlett. He was a magician / balloon twister. And I'd gotten my first gig, and I was watching his show at the farm to learn, okay, I'm going to be doing walk around. And I saw his show and he was really good and people loved him. And I watched his show 4 times in a row with my mom sitting next to me on the bales of hay. And after the 4th time he comes up, he goes, okay, what's the deal? He goes, you must have my act memorized. What's going on? And so my mom's like, oh, Brian's going to be a magician. And you're just so good. He went up on stage. He brought his act out that he had just performed, that he's getting paid, presumably good money to do. And he taught me his act. And he gave me some props. He goes, this is a special plastic bag here. You have that. I got plenty at home. It was just literally give. And I'll never forget that. But that was my introduction. My real introduction into magic was
Mm.
with such kindness. Now, very few magicians are that way, but I just got lucky. That's just how I entered this world.
That's amazing. And I'm so happy to hear this. It's so nice to hear these positive experiences and everything just unfolding. Is there something that you do internally, like in your mind? Because I believe that everything starts off with a thought and a feeling, and then we can allow or attract that into our lives or see it manifest. Are you able to pinpoint, because I love learning and hearing about this, something that you're doing with your emotions or your energy or your mind that then allows these things to unfold and allows you to meet the right people at the right time? And
I've met so many of the wrong people. I don't know that I'm the best, but here's one thing that I learned. I happened to be putting on a show. It was a benefit show, and this amazing mentalist was backstage, and he was giving himself positive affirmations. And he didn't know I could hear. I was walking down the hall, and I hear him going, "Man, it's such a great day. I'm so lucky to do this. I'm so happy to be here today and to get to share this with everybody." And I looked in the room, and he was just talking to himself in the mirror. And I was like, "John, you're up." And he walked out on stage, and he was just beaming, and people could. You just look at that guy and you're like, that guy's happy. That guy, I like that guy. You're attracted to that guy. So I don't think that's exactly what you're asking, but that is something that there are times at shows, especially school shows, where I have to get up at 4 or 5 in the morning, drive for a couple hours, set up the show, and I'm exhausted. I just want to be in bed, and the show's about to start, and I go, you know what? I got to get myself pumped. And I talk to myself, not out loud, but in my head, I talk to myself about how lucky I am to be doing what I'm doing. This is what I've worked my whole life for. I can't wait to go share these tricks with these students or whatever it is. So that is one of the things that I do. But on a wider scale, having nothing to do with performance, something that I learned a long time ago, I read it in a book on happiness. I love the topic of your podcast.
Thank you.
Happiness is not something that came to me naturally. I think I had a lot of, as I was younger and certainly in high school, middle school, I think I tended towards negative. And so I've spent a long time trying to read books and other things and meet people who helped me learn how to live a happier life. And one of the things that I do, because I talked to my wife about this before coming on your podcast, and my wife reminded me of this trick that I learned a long time ago, and now I do it all the time, which is happiness is a 3-phase process, right? There's the example I heard was, let's say that your kid is having a cake. So eating the cake, that's the event, right? That's going to bring happiness. But there's getting excited about eating the cake, and there's talking about eating the cake afterwards. And that's all part of happiness. So, and so I try with my kids to get them to think about things, talk about things that they enjoyed, talk about things that they're going to enjoy, and then hopefully they can enjoy the moment too.
Hey, Brian, I love everything about what you just shared and what you practice with your children and your wife, your family. I find ways to feel good in the moment or appreciate where I am. But I tell myself that I'm excited also about what's unfolding and what's to come. So, Brian, I wanted to ask you with the laughter exercises, there's one that is called the magic laughter exercise. And I'm curious what you think of this one, if we can do it.
Okay. Let's do it.
Feeling nervous to do because you're a professional in the magic field, and this is okay.
But yeah, let's do it.
Okay, cool. Okay, so I'm going to, and there are people tuning in audio only, so I'll try to explain this best that I can so that it makes sense for audio. But basically, I'm going to take two of my, you might know this trick. I think it's an old school one, or okay, traditional one. Okay. So I remember my father doing this. So you take your both of your index fingers, and they're separated right now, and then you bring them together, slowly bring them together, and say A, and then
Is that what you were doing?
Bring them together. Yeah, so we bring them together and apart. So together, A, and then together again, A, apart, together, apart. And then at one point we tap them together, and then our index finger and middle finger of one hand. Oh, how do you describe this audio only? Together in a peace sign.
You put down one first finger and you put up one middle finger. Yes,
where you're making a peace sign with one hand. And it looks like your two index fingers now are attached together. And then you laugh.
Okay.
Okay, so that was the magic laughter yoga exercise. Looking for another fun laughter exercise, what we can do, something that's easy to do with is an action, and then we laugh. How about, do you do stuff with cards, or do you do stuff with
I'm sure I have cards right over here.
Combining magic and laughter.
Let me grab a deck. I'll grab it real quick. They're right here. So we've got, let me get a non-gimmick deck.
Okay.
There we go. Okay, so we have a deck of cards.
Okay, yes, and we'll explain this. And guys, this is our listeners, viewers. This is not planned. No. We're using some improvisational skills. Okay.
Okay. I tell you what, I'm going to go through the deck like this. Let me shuffle them up. Let me find, I want to get a table high enough so that the camera can.
Yeah, just something simple. And the purpose is so we can laugh.
I'm going to go like this. You just say stop whenever you want.
Okay, stop.
Right there?
Yeah.
One more, or that's it?
Maybe one more.
One more? Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
I want you to say the name. I'm going to look away and say the name of this card over and over in your mind. 3 of hearts, 3 of hearts, 3 of hearts, or whatever it is. Oh my God.
It's the 3 of hearts.
I have extra cards.
What? You have extra what? You have
extra cards.
Oh. And Brian, for our audio listeners, Brian was pulling cards were coming out of Brian's mouth. I just wanted to make sure everybody
of course, yeah. Audio is not my normal medium.
Me neither. It's becoming mine, but I'm still learning because I'm human. Brian, thank you so much for that impromptu exercise where we chose a card. You guessed it, like you.
Okay.
It was the 3 of hearts. I don't know how you did it.
I was very lucky.
That's amazing. And then I laughed we laughed as an exercise. So thank you so much for
pleasure
making a laughter exercise. So Brian, I want to thank you so much for being a guest, sharing what you shared. And I have one of my last questions that I like to ask is, if there was a question that I did not ask, but would have been a great question, what would it be? And what would your answer be? So basically, is there anything like a final for this chat thoughts that you would like to share with our listeners, any people who want to feel good or better, or who are in the performance world, or anyone, anything you would like to share?
I guess what my thought is, the thing that I see a lot of guys do that I don't think necessarily leads to happiness. They jump into this amazing art form, whether it's what you do or what I do, It's an art form, and they immediately go to what makes the most money or any money right off the bat. They're like, I don't like doing kid shows, but man, it's regular money. If you don't like doing kid shows, don't do kid shows. If you don't like doing corporate events, don't do corporate events. I think you just have to think a little outside of the box and find a way. This live show, I still do corporate events, but that's my favorite thing to do. It's to write shows, sell tickets, have people come, hopefully they'll like it. And then every 4 or 5 years, I'll write another one. So I would say, don't just settle with what other guys, no two magicians have made their money the same way. Everyone's created their own paths. Figure out what you like and then focus on that rather than just listening to the marketing gurus who tell you what you should do.
Brian,
Yes.
that is gold. It is so key and so important. I am so happy I asked you that question. What I'm saying is, I'm so glad you shared that important piece of advice with us, because it's key to everything. It's all about following what feels right and feels fun for you. And only
Right.
you know what that is. And it's different for everyone, like you said. Thank you so much for having shared that,
pleasure.
because it's so true and applies to everyone for everything. You've got to do what feels right for you. And do you have a trick on how to tune in to check in with yourself to feel what feels right for you? Like, how do you know?
Boy, to me, it's just, what do I get excited about? I know it when I feel it.
Yes. Okay. That's it. You feel it.
Yeah.
It's a feeling. And thank you for
No
sharing
problem.
that with us. And I do the same thing. I check in, or I pay attention to how I feel. And it's a feeling that only
It is.
you can be aware of and know. And trust the feeling, and follow what feels right and fun. So these are such important things that you shared with us, Brian. I'm very thankful.
That's my pleasure.
everything
Thank you
you
for having
shared.
me on the podcast.
I will see your show one day, and Steve Martin will
Excellent.
too. And
I hope so.
yes, I'm really excited for everything that you're doing, and so happy we reconnected. Thank you again, Brian, for having
My pleasure.
been a guest, and I hope to laugh with you and see you soon.
That sounds great. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Okay, bye. Thank you for having tuned into this Law of Happy episode. If you smiled, laughed, or felt inspired, please subscribe, rate, review, and share the Law of Happy podcast with someone you'd love to have fun with. And if you'd like to laugh with me as a guest on the show or in a customized program, you can email me at lauren@lawofhappy.com. I look forward to laughing with you soon.